The Deep Space Listening Station picked up the signal at exactly 14:32 Earth time. It was humanity's first message sent beyond their solar system. A simple greeting broadcast from their largest radio telescope. The signal traveled through space for months before reaching the outer edges of Galactic Council territory. Admiral Zextry stood in the command center of the Council flagship, his 6 arms crossed behind his back. His dark blue skin showed the scars of many battles, and his red eyes glowed with the authority of someone who had commanded respect across the galaxy for 3 centuries. The Vorthic Empire had been part of the Galactic Council since its formation, and Zextry had personally overseen the containment of 47 emerging civilizations. Another new species has achieved faster-than-light communication, reported. Captain Veltar, a tall, thin creature with silver skin and large black eyes. The Zenthari were known throughout the galaxy as skilled diplomats and translators. They call themselves humans, and they come from the 3rd planet in a system they named Sol. Zextry moved to the main viewing screen, where data about Earth scrolled, passed in neat columns. Population numbers, technology levels, energy output, military capabilities. All the standard measurements the Council used to evaluate new civilizations. What do we know about their nature? Zextry asked. Veltar touched a control panel, and images filled the screen. Humans fighting in wars, nuclear explosions, cities burning, forests being cut down. The intercepted broadcasts showed violence, conflict, and destruction spanning thousands of years of human history. They are extremely aggressive, Veltar said. In the past century alone, they have fought 2 massive wars that killed millions of their own kind. They have weapons that can destroy their entire planet. Their broadcasts show constant conflict between different groups. Other council members gathered around the screen. Commander Thizes of the insect-like Corvin clicked her mandibles in disgust. Look at how they treat their own world. They poison their air and water. They kill other species for sport. The psychic representative of the Etherians, a being of pure energy contained in a crystal housing, pulsed with disturbed light. Their minds are filled with violent thoughts. Even their entertainment focuses on war and conflict. Zextry studied the data carefully. He had seen this pattern before. Young civilizations often showed promise in their early development, but once they reached spacefaring capability, they became dangerous to established galactic order. The Council had learned this lesson through bitter experience over millions of years. They have already begun testing primitive, faster-than-light travel, reported the Nexari science officer, her mechanical voice flat and emotionless. Our projections show they will achieve practical interstellar flight within 50 Earth years. Unacceptable, Zextry said. A species this violent cannot be allowed to spread beyond their home system. The damage they could cause to galactic civilization would be immeasurable. The council chamber filled with agreement. Representatives from 12 different species nodded, clicked, buzzed, and pulsed their approval. In their long history, they had never encountered a violent species that became peaceful once it reached the stars. Violence bred more violence, and war spread like a disease across star systems. I will personally deliver the warning, Veltar sighed. My ship can reach their system within 10 of their days. Zextry approved with a sharp nod. Make the message clear. They are to remain within their solar system. Any attempt to expand beyond will result in the complete destruction of their species. This is not a negotiation. 10 days later, Veltar's diplomatic vessel appeared in Earth's outer solar system. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time, built from materials that seemed to bend light around them. It was large enough to hold a small city, yet moved through space like a living creature. On Earth, every government received the same message at the same time. Radio telescopes, satellite dishes, and communication centers around the world picked up the transmission in perfect English, Chinese, Spanish, Arabic, and dozens of other human languages. In the United Nations building in New York, Secretary General Maria Santos sat in an emergency meeting with world leaders connected by video link. President John Carter appeared on the main screen from Washington, his face pale with shock. "The message is the same everywhere," Maria said, reading from the paper in her hands. "Humanity must remain within your solar system. Any attempt to expand beyond will be met with total destruction. This is not a negotiation. This is your only warning." The room fell silent. World leaders stared at their screens, trying to process what they had just heard. For decades, humans had dreamed of reaching the stars, of finding other intelligent life in the universe. Now they had found it, and it wanted them to stay home forever. "Are we certain this is real?" asked Prime Minister Robert Clark from London. "Every space agency on Earth confirms it," President Carter replied. "The signal came from a ship that appeared in our outer solar system. Our telescopes can see it. It's massive, and it's using technology we can't even begin to understand." Dr. Lisa Park, Earth's leading expert on the possibility of alien life, sat at the end of the table. She had spent her entire career preparing for this moment, but not like this. She had imagined first contact as a celebration, not a threat. "What are our options?" Maria asked. General Steve Morgan, head of the Space Defense Initiative, spoke. Carefully, "We have no military capability that could challenge a civilization capable of interstellar travel. Our most advanced weapons would be like throwing rocks at a tank. So we have no choice but to comply?" President Carter asked. Room filled with uncomfortable silence. Every person in that meeting knew the answer, but nobody wanted to say it out loud. Humanity had reached for the stars and been told to stay home by beings with the power to enforce that command. Dr. Park finally spoke. "We need time to think. This changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe. Maybe there's another way to approach this." As the meeting ended and world leaders logged off their connections, Maria Santos remained in her chair, staring at the alien message. Outside her window, New York City continued its normal life, unaware that humanity's future among the stars had just been decided by beings they had never met. But Dr. Park had an idea forming in her mind, something the aliens might not expect, something that might change everything. Dr. Lisa Park sat in her office at the International Space Research Center, surrounded by books about alien life and communication theory. For 3 days, she had been working with the best minds on Earth to craft humanity's response to the Galactic Council's warning. The weight of the entire species' future rested on the words they would choose. Professor Dan Wright, a language expert from Oxford University, paced back and forth across the room. He had spent his career studying how different cultures communicate, but nothing had prepared him for writing a message to alien beings who had threatened to destroy humanity. "Every response we've considered falls into 2 categories," Dan said, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Either we beg for mercy, or we defy them. Both options seem to lead to the same result." Dr. Amy Collins, a physicist who had worked on humanities, first faster-than-light communication systems, looked up from her computer screen. "The mathematical models are clear. If we show weakness, they'll see us as conquered. If we show strength, they'll see us as a threat. Neither option gives us what we want." Lisa stood up and walked to the window. Outside, people went about their normal lives, unaware that their future hung in the balance. Children played in the park across the street, completely innocent of the cosmic forces that had decided humanity should never leave their home system. "What if we're thinking about this wrong?" Lisa said suddenly. "What if there's a third option?" Dan stopped pacing. "What do you mean?" "Look at their message again," Lisa said, pointing to the text displayed on the wall screen. They said this was a warning, not a negotiation. But what if we treat it as helpful advice instead of a threat? Amy frowned. I don't understand. Lisa turned to face her colleagues. What if we thank them? The room fell silent. Dan and Amy stared at her as if she had suggested jumping off a cliff. Thank them? Dan asked. For threatening to destroy our entire species? No, Lisa said, her excitement growing. Thank them for warning us about the dangers of space exploration. Thank them for caring about our safety and the safety of others. Amy shook her head. That's crazy. They'll think we're mocking them. Will they? Lisa asked. Think about it. They've probably dealt with hundreds of species over the years. How many of those species responded to threats with genuine gratitude? Dan began to understand. You're saying we respond in a way they don't expect. Exactly, Lisa said. We treat their warning as a gift from experienced galactic citizens who want to help us avoid making dangerous mistakes. 3 hours later, Captain Rick Hayes received orders to take his experimental ship New Horizon to the edge of the solar system. Rick was a former military pilot who had been chosen to command humanity's most advanced spacecraft. The ship was small compared to the alien vessel, but it represented the best of human technology. Rick read the message he was supposed to deliver, and his jaw dropped. Are you sure about this, Control? Confirmed, New Horizon, came the reply. From Dr. Park's team. Deliver the message exactly as written. Rick approached the alien ship slowly, broadcasting the message on all frequencies. The words felt strange coming from his mouth, but he followed his orders exactly. Dear members of the Galactic Council, Rick said, humanity wishes to express our sincere gratitude for your warning about the dangers of interstellar expansion. We appreciate your concern for our safety and the safety of other galactic civilizations. Aboard. The Council flagship, Admiral Zexcree stared at the communication screen in confusion. In 3 centuries of dealing with emerging civilizations, he had never received a message like this. Did they just thank us? Asked Captain Veltar, his large black eyes blinking rapidly. Play it again, Zexcree ordered. The human message repeated, and Zexcree's confusion grew deeper. The human's voice was calm and respectful, without any trace of fear or anger. There was no begging, no threats, no attempts to negotiate. Just simple, honest gratitude. We understand that you have much more experience with interstellar civilization than we do, the message continued. We recognize that our species has made many mistakes in our history, and we respect your judgment about the risks we might pose. To galactic peace. Veltar turned to his commander. Sir, this doesn't match any of our prediction models. Every species we've encountered has responded with either submission or defiance. Zexcree's red eyes narrowed. Perhaps it's a trick. Maybe they're trying to lower our guard. But the message wasn't finished. Rick's voice continued with words that made the alien commander's blood run cold. We would like to request the opportunity to learn from your wisdom, Rick said. If you would be willing to share knowledge about how to be responsible members of galactic civilization, humanity would be honored to receive such guidance. Commander Helen Wade, Earth's new diplomatic liaison, had worked with Dr. Park to add the final part of the message. Helen had spent years negotiating international treaties, but this was her most important assignment ever. We understand that we may not be ready to join galactic civilization at this time. Helen's voice added to the transmission. We respect your decision to keep us within our solar system while we learn to be better potential citizens. We hope that someday, when we have proven ourselves worthy of your trust, you might consider allowing us to participate in the galactic community. The message ended with coordinates for continued communication and an invitation for cultural exchange. Admiral. Zexcree stood in stunned silence for several minutes. Around him, his crew exchanged confused looks. This was not how things were supposed to go. Sir, Veltar said quietly, what are your orders? Zexcree didn't answer immediately. In all his years of experience, he had developed responses to every possible reaction from newly discovered species. Fear, anger, bargaining, denial, desperate attempts at negotiation. But gratitude? Appreciation? Requests for guidance? This was completely outside his experience. "Send a message to the council," he finally said. "Tell them we need an emergency session. Something unusual is happening here." Back on Earth, Dr. Park watched the alien ship through telescope feeds. So far, there had been no response to humanity's message, but that was better than immediate destruction. "Do you think it worked?" Amy asked. "I don't know," Lisa admitted. "But I think we've given them something to think about." Professor Dan Wright smiled for the first time in days. "You know what the beautiful part is? We weren't lying. We really are grateful. They warned us instead of just attacking. We really do want to learn from them. We really do respect their experience." Lisa nodded. Sometimes the most powerful weapon is simple honesty. 3 days later, Captain Rick Hayes received new orders. The aliens had finally responded, but not with words. The massive alien ship had moved to a different position in the solar system, and long-range sensors detected other ships arriving. The Galactic Council was coming to Earth, and nobody knew what that meant for humanity's future. But for the first time since the warning had arrived, Dr. Park felt hopeful. They had broken the pattern. They had done something no other species had ever done when faced with the Council's ultimatum. They had said, "Thank you," and meant it. The emergency session of the Galactic Council had been going on for 6 hours, and Admiral Zexcree had never seen the representatives so confused. The great chamber aboard the Council's mobile headquarters buzzed with 12 different forms of agitated communication. Commander Theises of the Corvin clicked her mandibles rapidly, a sign of deep frustration among her insect-like species. "This makes no sense," she said through her translator. "Every psychological profile we have of emerging civilizations shows 2 possible responses to containment warnings. They submit in fear, or they resist in anger. Gratitude is not a logical response." The Etherian representative pulsed with uncertain light patterns. "I have scanned the minds of the humans who delivered their message. Their emotions read as genuinely positive. There is no deception, no hidden hostility. They truly are grateful for our warning." Zexcree studied the data streams flowing across the central display. Perhaps their gratitude is a form of madness. Species under extreme stress sometimes develop irrational responses. "No," said the Nexari science officer, her mechanical voice cutting through the debate. "I have analyzed their entire response from multiple angles. Every word choice, every emotional inflection, every diplomatic protocol they followed. This is not madness. This is a carefully planned strategy, but one unlike anything in our databases." Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Janet Ross worked late into the night at the Global Communications Center. As head of the Earth Defense Analysis Team, she had been monitoring alien communications ever since Captain Paul Anderson's reconnaissance missions had managed to intercept Council transmissions. "They're arguing," Janet told her team as she adjusted. "The translation algorithms. The Council members can't agree on what humanity's response means." Captain Paul Anderson floated outside Earth's atmosphere in his stealth reconnaissance craft, using advanced sensors to eavesdrop on alien communications. His ship was small and quiet, designed to gather intelligence without being detected. "This is interesting," Paul reported over the secure channel. "I'm picking up heated discussions between different alien ships. They seem to be questioning their own procedures." Back at the International Space Research Center, Dr. Lisa Park smiled as she listened to the reports. The first part of humanity's plan was working perfectly. But now came the more dangerous second phase. General Carl Brooks, a tough military commander with 30 years of experience, looked skeptical as he read the orders Dr. Park had prepared. "You want us to send them gifts?" "Not just any gifts," Lisa explained. "Care packages. The kind of things we would send to welcome new neighbors." Dr. Nancy Lee, the project's chief scientist, wheeled in a cart loaded with carefully selected items. Music from different human cultures, artwork, literature translated into mathematical concepts they can understand, and food samples that are safe for multiple biological types. General Brooks picked up a small container. "Chocolate?" "Universal appeal," Nancy said with a grin. "We did the chemical analysis. It should be safe for most carbon-based life forms, and the endorphin response is something many species share." The most important part of each care package was a detailed scientific report about human biology and psychology. Dr. Park had insisted on complete honesty about humanity's past mistakes and current efforts to improve. "We're giving them everything," Lisa explained to the assembled team. "Our weaknesses, our strengths, our history of violence, and our capacity for growth. We're showing them that we have nothing to hide." Commander Tony Baker launched the gift packages using humanity's most advanced automated probes. Each package was sent to a different council ship, and each included a handwritten note from a different human being. The note in the first package was written by 8-year-old Sally Martinez from Mexico City. "Dear aliens, thank you for keeping us safe. I hope we can be friends someday. I drew you a picture of my cat." The second package included a letter from Professor William Johnson, age 74, from the University of Tokyo. "Honored council members, I have spent my life studying the stars and dreaming of meeting other intelligent species. Your wisdom in warning us shows the kind of maturity our species hopes to achieve." Each note was genuine, written by real people who had volunteered to participate in the project. Teachers, farmers, students, artists, scientists, and workers from every continent had contributed messages, expressing curiosity about alien cultures and hopes for friendship. Admiral Zexkri stared at the collection of items that had materialized on his ship's receiving platform. The translation computer had worked through the handwritten note, and the simple words of the 8-year-old human child left him strangely disturbed. "A drawing," he said, holding up the colorful picture. "This young human sent us a drawing of her domestic animal." Captain Veltar examined the other items in their package. "Sir, the food samples appear to be genuine gifts. Our analysis shows they are not poisoned or contaminated. The human who prepared them included detailed nutritional information to ensure they would be safe for us to consume." The music box began playing a soft melody when Veltar accidentally activated it. The sound filled the command center with gentle, harmonious notes that seemed designed purely for beauty rather than communication. "Why? Would they send us their art?" Zexkri asked. "What purpose does this serve?" On the Corvin flagship, Commander Theises received her package with deep suspicion. The Corvin were a warrior species, and they understood gifts as either bribes or insults. But the human package fit neither category. The letter in Theises' package came from Marine Sergeant Bob Wilson, a combat veteran. "Dear Corvin Commander, I have fought in wars and seen the damage violence can cause. I respect your strength and your ability to maintain peace in the galaxy. Perhaps our species can learn discipline from yours." The package included examples of human martial arts, detailed descriptions of military honor codes, and artwork depicting soldiers protecting civilians. Everything was presented as humanity seeking to learn from Corvin warrior wisdom. Theises found herself studying the human military traditions with genuine interest. Their concepts of honor and sacrifice were remarkably similar to Corvin values. Despite their reputation for chaotic violence, Dr. Janet Ross intercepted more alien communications as the packages were delivered. "The council members are even more confused now," she reported. "Some of them are starting to question whether humans are actually dangerous. The Nexari science officer had received a package filled with mathematical proofs, scientific discoveries, and philosophical questions about the nature of consciousness. The accompanying letter asked for Nexari guidance in understanding the deeper truths of the universe. The Etherian representative found their package contained poetry, music, and art, specifically created to explore emotional and spiritual themes. The human letter writers had somehow intuited that the Etherians were beings of pure consciousness and had crafted their gifts accordingly. Each council species received packages tailored to their known interests and cultural values. The humans had done their research and personalized every gift to show respect for each alien civilization. "This is unprecedented," reported the Zenthari Diplomatic Corps after analyzing all the packages. "The humans have demonstrated detailed knowledge of our different cultures and have crafted appropriate gifts for each species. This level of diplomatic sophistication suggests advanced intelligence." Admiral Zekskri called another emergency session. But this time, the mood was different. Instead of unified certainty about human dangerousness, the council members were divided and uncertain. "Perhaps we have misjudged them," suggested the Etherian representative. "Their capacity for violence may be balanced by an equal capacity for kindness." "Their gifts show remarkable thoughtfulness," admitted the Corvin commander. "They took time to understand our values before choosing what to share." Zekskri felt control of the situation slipping away. For the first time in his long career, he was dealing with a species that refused to follow the established patterns. The humans were not acting like conquered primitives or defiant rebels. They were acting like equals who simply wanted to learn and belong. "We cannot let sentiment cloud our judgment," he warned the council. "A dangerous species that appears friendly is more threatening than one that shows its hostility openly." But doubt had been planted in the minds of the council members. The humans had given them gifts, expressed genuine gratitude, and asked for guidance. None of this fit the profile of a species that needed to be contained or destroyed. On Earth, Dr. Lisa Park received reports that the alien ships had stopped their aggressive formations and had begun communicating more frequently with each other. The plan was working, but the most crucial phase was still to come. "They're starting to question their own assumptions," she told her team. "Now we need to give them something that will make questioning impossible to avoid." Dr. Lisa Park stood before the secret war room where humanity's greatest minds had gathered to plan their species' survival. The room was hidden deep beneath the International Space Research Center, and only 12 people on Earth knew it existed. "Ladies and gentlemen," Lisa said to the assembled group, "I want to show you exactly why our strategy is working." Dr. Kate Sullivan, the world's leading expert on alien psychology, activated the main display screen. Kate had spent the past month analyzing every piece of intercepted alien communication, building psychological profiles of each council species. "The Galactic Council has existed for over 10 million years, Kate explained. "In that time, they have encountered thousands of emerging civilizations. Every single one has responded to their containment warnings in predictable ways." Colonel Ben Torres, a military strategist who had planned operations in conflicts around the world, pointed to a chart showing response patterns. Species either submit immediately and become junior members of galactic civilization, or they resist and get destroyed. There are no other recorded outcomes. Intelligence analyst Roy Campbell, who had spent his career breaking enemy codes, added more data to the display. The beautiful part is that both responses confirm the Council's beliefs about their own superiority. Submission proves they were right to dominate emerging species. Resistance proves the species was dangerous and needed to be eliminated. Lisa nodded. "We broke that cycle by responding in a way that doesn't fit either category. We didn't submit, but we also didn't resist. We thanked them." Captain Lisa Chun had been running covert observation missions using humanity's most advanced stealth technology. Her ships had been watching the Council fleet for weeks, gathering intelligence that revealed the truth about galactic civilization. The intercepted communications show something interesting, Lisa Chun reported. Many of the current Council species were once in our position. They received the same warning when they first achieved interstellar travel. Dr. Kate Sullivan brought up historical records. The Xanthari were contained for 3,000 years before being allowed to join as diplomatic specialists. The Corvin were isolated for 5,000 years until they were recruited as military enforcers. Even the powerful Vorthik spent millennia as subordinate partners before earning equal status. Colonel Torres understood the implications immediately. The Council isn't just maintaining galactic peace. They're maintaining a hierarchy where older civilizations stay in control and newer ones serve as specialized tools. Exactly, Lisa said. And our response threatens that entire system. We're not asking to be servants or trying to fight for dominance. We're treating them as equals who can teach us, which implies we might someday be equals ourselves. Intelligence. Analyst Roy Campbell had decoded enough alien communications to reveal the deepest secret of galactic civilization. The Council members are genuinely divided about us. Some of them remember being in our position and are starting to question whether the current system is fair. Commander Greg Foster, who had been sending additional diplomatic messages to the aliens, smiled as he read the latest responses. Our follow-up communications are making things even more complicated for them. Each message humanity sent expressed excitement about learning galactic history and admiration for the Council's long experience in maintaining peace. But the messages also included subtle questions that made the Council members uncomfortable. We're so curious about how different species joined the galactic community, one message had said. It must be wonderful to have such a diverse civilization where everyone contributes their unique strengths as equals. The word equals appeared in every human message, always in contexts that made it difficult for the Council to object without. Admitting they didn't treat all species as equals, diplomat Ellen Price had crafted messages that praised the Council for their wisdom while gently questioning some of their assumptions. We admire how you've maintained peace for so long. It must be challenging to balance the need for security with the desire to welcome new civilizations as full partners. Dr. Kate Sullivan showed the psychological impact of these messages on the alien communications. The Council members are starting to argue among themselves about fundamental questions they've never had to consider before. The Etherian representative had been heard questioning whether containing species indefinitely was truly peaceful. The younger Xanthari diplomats were asking why some species remained junior partners for thousands of years. Even some Corvin commanders were wondering if the current system created the very conflicts it was supposed to prevent. The genius of our approach, Colonel Torres explained, is that we're forcing them to examine their own system from the perspective of its newest potential. Members, we're not attacking their authority. We're asking them to live up to their own stated values. Roy Campbell played recorded alien communications that showed the growing crisis within the Council. Admiral Zexkri is losing control of the situation. Half the Council members are starting to see humans as a diplomatic opportunity rather than a military threat. Captain Lisa Chun had observed the most important development. 3 Council species have begun private communications with each other, discussing the possibility of reforming how they handle emerging civilizations. Our response has triggered a political crisis that's been building for millennia. Dr. Lisa Park revealed the final element of humanity's strategy. We're about to send them our complete historical and psychological profile. Everything about our species, the good and the bad, presented with complete honesty. The document they had prepared was unlike anything the Council had ever received. Most species tried to hide their weaknesses or exaggerate their strengths when communicating with advanced civilizations. Humanity was doing the opposite. We're telling them about our wars, our environmental damage, our social problems, and our failures, Dr. Kate Sullivan explained. But we're also showing them our capacity for learning, growth, and cooperation. The report included detailed analysis of how humanity had moved from tribal conflicts to global cooperation, how they had begun reversing environmental damage, and how they were working to overcome their violent tendencies through education and so on. Cultural evolution. Most importantly, Lisa said, we're showing them that we're not asking to be judged by our past, but by our potential for improvement. Colonel Torres understood the military implications. If they accept our argument that species can change and grow, they'll have to question their policy of permanent containment for civilizations that show violent tendencies. And if they question that policy, Roy Campbell added, they'll have to question the entire system that keeps older civilizations in control of newer ones. The final message was ready for transmission. Ambassador Carol Smith, humanity's most experienced diplomat, would deliver it personally aboard the diplomatic vessel they had prepared specifically for this mission. Lieutenant Commander Alex Davis had established the communication protocols that would ensure the message reached every council member simultaneously. There would be no opportunity for Admiral Zek Scree to filter or modify the information before other species saw it. The message is simple, Lisa explained as they prepared for transmission. We're acknowledging that we may not be ready for full galactic citizenship, but we're asking for the chance to prove we can grow and change. Dr. Kate Sullivan made one final observation. A psychological impact will be devastating to their current worldview. We're essentially asking them to judge us by the same standards they would want to be judged by if they were in our position. As the transmission began, Lisa felt a mixture of hope and terror. They had crafted the perfect response to an impossible situation, but success would depend on whether the aliens could see past millions of years of established tradition. Either this works, she said quietly, or we've just made the most polite surrender in human history. But she didn't really believe it was surrender. For the first time since the aliens had arrived, humanity had taken control of the situation. They weren't reacting to alien demands anymore. They were forcing the aliens to react human values. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity decided to lead by example instead of by force. Admiral Zek Scree stood alone in his private quarters, staring at the complete human psychological and historical profile that had just arrived. In 3 centuries of commanding council operations, he had never received such a document from an ally. Emerging civilization. Most species tried to impress the council with their achievements or beg for mercy by emphasizing their weaknesses. The humans had done something unprecedented. They had presented a completely honest assessment of themselves, acknowledging both their flaws and their potential for growth. The report detailed humanity's violent history without making excuses. It described their wars, their environmental destruction, and their social conflicts with scientific precision. But it also documented their capacity for change, their efforts to learn from mistakes, and their growing cooperation as a species. They're not hiding anything, Zek Scree said to himself. They're showing us exactly who they are and asking us to judge them fairly. The psychological analysis was particularly disturbing to his worldview. It showed that human violence was often driven by fear, resource competition, and cultural misunderstandings, problems that could be solved through education, cooperation, and contact with more advanced civilizations. On the Corvin flagship, Commander Thizes was having similar struggles with the human report. The military analysis showed that human conflicts were becoming less frequent and less destructive. Over time, their most recent generation had grown up with global communication and was less likely to see other humans as enemies. They are learning to control their aggressive impulses, Thizes admitted to her second-in-command. Their younger generation shows significantly different psychological patterns from their ancestors. The Etherian representative was even more troubled by the human report. The psychic scans of human consciousness showed genuine remorse for past mistakes and sincere desire to become better. These were not the thoughts of a species that would spread violence throughout the galaxy. Meanwhile, Dr. Sandra Price worked frantically at the Global Communications Center to monitor the Council's reaction to humanity's final gambit. As Earth's chief xenological advisor, she had helped craft the report that was now causing chaos in the alien fleet. Captain Matt Johnson maintained position near the Council ships, using advanced sensors to track their communications and movements. The alien fleet had been in defensive formation for weeks, but now the ships were moving into discussion patterns that suggested intense debate. "They're arguing constantly now," Matt reported. "Multiple heated exchanges between different species. Representatives. Whatever our report said, it's causing major problems for them." The problems had started the moment humanity's message reached the Council. Ambassador Carol Smith had delivered the report with a simple statement that contained, "Humanity's masterstroke. We understand you may not be ready to accept humanity into galactic civilization. We respect this decision and offer to remain in our solar system while we learn to be better galactic citizens. We hope that someday, when we have proven ourselves worthy, you might reconsider." The message continued with humanity's most dangerous proposal. "We would be honored to participate in any probationary or educational program you might design to help emerging civilizations develop the maturity needed for galactic citizenship." Lieutenant Commander Alex Davis had ensured the message reached every Council member simultaneously, preventing Admiral Zex Kree from controlling the information flow. The impact was immediate and devastating to Council unity. The younger members of several species began questioning why the Council had never created such programs before. If the goal was truly to maintain galactic peace, why not help violent species become peaceful instead of simply containing or destroying them? The Xanthari Diplomatic Corps was the first to break ranks. Their representative Veltar sent a private message to the human fleet. "Your proposal for educational cooperation is intriguing. The Xanthari would be willing to participate in cultural exchange programs." This message terrified Admiral Zexcree because it represented the complete breakdown of Council authority. Individual species were now making diplomatic contact with humans without his approval. The Nexari Science Division followed with their own communication, expressing interest in humanity's rapid technological development and offering to share scientific knowledge. The Etherians contacted Earth's philosophers and artists, fascinated by human creativity and emotional depth. Even some Corvin commanders began private discussions about human military honor codes and their methods for controlling aggressive impulses. The warrior species found themselves impressed by humanity's efforts to channel violence into productive purposes. Admiral Zeskri called an emergency council session, but for the first time in his career, several species representatives refused to attend. The Xanthari sent word that they were busy with important diplomatic initiatives. The Nexari claimed they were conducting essential scientific research. The Etherians simply said they were exploring new forms of consciousness. The council was falling apart, and Zexcree knew exactly why. The humans had presented them with a question that challenged the foundation of galactic civilization. If the goal was peace, why not help violent species become peaceful instead of suppressing them forever? Dr. Chris Martin and engineer Linda Hall had been working secretly on humanity's final surprise. While the diplomatic exchanges continued, they had been preparing evidence that humanity was already implementing the kind of peaceful development the Council claimed to want. The data package they sent to the aliens contained detailed plans for space habitats designed for multiple species cooperation, defensive technologies that could protect civilizations without threatening others, and comprehensive environmental restoration projects that were already healing Earth's damaged ecosystems. "We wanted you to see that we're not just talking about change," Dr. Martin's message explained. were actively working to become the kind of species that would be a positive addition to galactic civilization. The space habitat designs showed orbital cities where different species could live together while maintaining their own cultural areas. The defensive technologies were specifically designed to protect planets and trade routes without being useful for aggressive warfare. The environmental projects demonstrated humanity's commitment to healing rather than destroying worlds. Engineer Linda Hall had included detailed technical specifications that proved these weren't just theoretical concepts. Humanity was already building the first multi-species habitat in Earth orbit, ready to welcome galactic visitors whenever the Council decided humans were trustworthy. The evidence was overwhelming. Humanity wasn't just promising to change, they were already changing, and they were doing it in exactly the way the Council claimed. They wanted all species to develop. The psychological impact on the Council was devastating. Admiral Zexcree found himself unable to justify destroying a species that was actively working to become exactly what galactic civilization needed. The humans had made it impossible for him to maintain his position without admitting that the Council's true purpose was maintaining power rather than maintaining peace. The final crisis came when the Ansaquono Etherian representative made a formal declaration. To the full Council, the humans have demonstrated genuine growth, sincere desire for peaceful cooperation, and active efforts to become responsible galactic citizens. To deny them the opportunity to prove themselves would make us the obstacle to galactic peace, not them. 3 other species immediately supported the Etherian position. The Xanthari called for humanity to be granted probationary membership with educational oversight. The Nexari proposed a scientific exchange program that would help humans develop peaceful technologies. Even a faction of younger Corvin officers suggested that humanity's military traditions could contribute to galactic defense without threatening galactic peace. Admiral Zexcree realized he had lost control completely. Half the Council was now arguing for accepting humanity, while the other half was questioning the entire system of permanent containment for emerging civilizations. The humans had achieved something impossible. They had turned a threat of destruction into an opportunity for galactic reform. President John Carter and Dr. Lisa Park watched the developments from Earth's Situation Room. Reports from Captain Matt Johnson showed the alien fleet reorganizing into cooperative rather than threatening formations. Several species had begun sending educational materials and cultural exchange proposals. "They can't destroy us now," Lisa said with quiet satisfaction. "They've admitted we're capable of growth and positive change. If they attack us after that admission, they become the aggressors." The final vote came after 3 days of continuous debate. The Council agreed to grant humanity probationary status in galactic civilization, with a 10-year educational period during which human development would be monitored and guided by volunteer species. Admiral Zexcree cast the only dissenting vote, but even he had to admit that the humans had outmaneuvered him completely. They hadn't used weapons or threats or deception. They had used honesty, gratitude, and a genuine desire to learn and improve. 6 months later, Ambassador Carol Smith sat in the first Interspecies Council meeting held in Earth orbit. Representatives from 7 different alien civilizations had come to Earth.